Harman.
Last night, the House agreed that there should be an EU referendum, but it's got to be... But it's got to be in the right way, and it's got to be fair. Firstly, the issue of who can vote. Why won't he let 16 and 17-year-olds vote? This is about the future of our country. They did in the Scottish referendum. It's their future too.
Well, first of all, can I thank the Honourable Lady and all those Labour MPs who joined us in the division lobbies last night. After 5 years of opposing a referendum, to watch them all trooping through, it was the biggest mass conversion since that Chinese general baptised his troops with a hosepipe. It was very impressive. On the issue of 16 and 17-year-olds, I believe this House should vote on that issue. The Conservative manifesto is clear, and my position is clear. I think we should stick with the current franchise at 18, but the House of Commons can vote.
Harman.
Can I just say, in his initial response to my question, that he won the election. He's the Prime Minister. He doesn't need to do ranting and sneering and gloating. He can just answer the question. And frankly, he should show a bit more class. So he and I both want to see a yes vote. He and I both want to see a yes vote, but it's essential this referendum is fair and seen to be fair. So why are they changing the law to exempt the government from the rules which are there to ensure the government doesn't inappropriately use public funds or the government machine in the short campaign? Will he think again about this?
I think the Honourable Lady is right. There was an excellent debate last night, and a lot of important issues were brought up, and they can be discussed when we have the committee stage of the bill. Let me answer very directly this issue of PERDA, because I think all the concerns that were raised can be addressed. There are two reasons for looking very carefully at this and for taking the proposals that we put forward. First of all, as the Europe Minister said, because the European issue is so pervasive, I don't want us to be in a situation where in the 4 weeks before a referendum, government ministers aren't able to talk about the European budget, make statements about European court judgments, respond to European councils and all the rest of it. That does seem to me a very real danger, and that is what the European Minister set out last night. The second issue I would raise, and I think this is a bigger issue, which is that, look, when the negotiation is complete and the government has a clear view, I don't want us to be neutral on this issue. I want us to speak clearly and frankly on this issue. And frankly, when it came to that Scottish referendum, I actually felt in the last few weeks before the referendum, actually the UK government was often being advised it couldn't take a view on the future of the UK. And I think that was a ridiculous situation, which is why we put forward the change to the PERDA rules. But it's an important question she raises. It'll be debated in the House, but I've set out the position as I see it.
But the problem is, it's not a change in the rules, it's a blanket exemption. And we must have a legal framework on the face of the bill. We cannot be left just to rely on ministerial restraint. Now, the Electoral Commission have said the referendum shouldn't be on the same day as any other election, and we strongly agree with that. This is an important constitutional issue that should be considered on its own. Will he guarantee that there will be a separate voting day for the referendum?
Well, again, the Right Honourable Lady is raising an important issue of process and procedure that should be debated and discussed in this House. I'll tell you exactly my view in 2 seconds. My view is that the timing of the referendum should be determined by the timing of the renegotiation. When the renegotiation is complete, we set a date for the referendum. I don't myself think it should be determined by the timing of other elections. It was quite possible to have, for instance, the AV referendum and other elections on the same day. I think people are capable of making those two decisions. But as I say, the timing of the referendum should be determined by the timing of the renegotiation. That's the clear principle.
Harriet Harman.
Talking about the timing of the referendum apropos of the renegotiations, we're talking about whether or not it should be the same day as other elections. And he mentioned the AV referendum, and I think that we would agree with the Electoral Commission that it wasn't right that it was held actually on the same day. But Mr. Speaker, we'll have the opportunity to look further at these issues in the G7 statement that's coming next. So I'd like to turn to an issue which is important to many families across the country. Before the election, the Prime Minister promised that his tax-free childcare policy would be launched this autumn. Is he on track to meet that promise?
It's a very important principle we're introducing, which is that if families spend up to £10,000 on childcare, they should be able to get £2,000 back. This is a government for working people who wants to help people with the costs of childcare. Not only are we doing that, and the Chancellor will set out the timing of the introduction in his budget, but we're also doubling to 30 hours the number of hours that people will get if they have 3- and 4-year-olds. This government's determined to act for working people.
It doesn't help working people to make promises and then not meet them. Let me ask him about another election promise. We know that childcare providers already have to increase their fees to parents who pay for additional hours above the 15 hours they get free. Given the free entitlement is going up to 30 hours, how can he guarantee that families will genuinely benefit from this and won't just end up being hit by increased fees elsewhere?
Well, what's going to happen is, first of all, we have a review of the fees that are being paid by the government to childcare providers, because I want this to be quality childcare. Second of all, we've got the increase from 15 to 30 hours, which will be of real benefit to working families. And third of all, we've got this new tax relief coming in, so if you spend up to £10,000, you get £2,000 back. What this will mean is that families under this government will have far greater choice on childcare, far greater resources on childcare, and they, rather like the Honourable Lady for Peckham, who said the other day, a greater number of people feel relieved that we're not in government. I suspect those parents will feel the same way.
Harriet Harman.
He just can't help himself but gloat, can he? Go right ahead and gloat, but why shouldn't he just answer the question about childcare? We know, and perhaps we can have an answer rather than a gloating session for the next question. I'll try again. We know that often grandparents help out. Most parents say they just couldn't manage without the grandparents. But increasingly, those grandparents are not retired, they are themselves working. So will the Prime Minister agree to look at how we can help grandparents get flexibility at work, like allowing them to share parental leave?
Well, I'm certainly happy to look at that, because the right to request flexible working is something that this government has championed. And I'm sorry if the Right Honourable Lady thinks I'm gloating. It must be the first time someone's ever been accused of gloating while quoting the Leader of the Opposition. I mean, for instance, she said the other day... She said people tend to like a leader who they feel is economically competent. You know, I think she's been talking a lot of sense, and I'm going to be quoting her as often as I possibly can.